Dongsu wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the massive drilling equipment tear through another asteroid. The mining station floated in the empty space between Mars and Jupiter, far from Earth but still within human territory. He had been working on Kepler Station for 3 years now, and every day felt the same. Drill, process, ship the metals back to Earth. Simple work for simple pay. The communication room suddenly filled with noise. Yijin, the young woman who handled all the station's messages, was shouting at her equipment. Her face was pale and her hands shook as she adjusted the dials. "Sir, you need to hear this," she called to Dongsu. He walked over to her station. The speakers crackled with strange sounds. Not human voices, but something else entirely. The sounds had a pattern, like someone trying to talk but using completely different vocal cords. "How long has this been going on?" Dongsu asked. "About 10 minutes. It's coming from outside our solar system. Way outside." Heejin's voice was barely a whisper. "Sir, I think these might be aliens." Dongsu stared at the speakers. In all his years working in space, he had never expected this moment. Earth had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Can you understand any of it?" he asked. Heejin shook her head. "Not yet, but the computer is working on it. The patterns suggest it's some kind of language." Taeho, the station's security chief, entered the room. He was a big man with scars on his arms from his military days. "What's all the noise about?" "First contact," Dongsu said simply. Taeho's eyes went wide. "Are you serious?" Before anyone could answer, the alien voices stopped. The room went silent except for the hum of machinery. Then, clear as day, a mechanical voice spoke through their speakers in perfect English. "Attention, primitive species. This is War Commander Thexaval of the Hegemony Fleet. Your solar system now belongs to us. Prepare for immediate surrender or face destruction." The 3 humans looked at each other. Dongsu felt a strange calm settle over him. After the shock wore off, he realized something important. These aliens were making demands. That meant they thought humans would be afraid. "Heejin, open a channel back to them," he said. "Sir, maybe we should contact Earth first." "Open the channel." Heejin pressed several buttons. A red light appeared on her console. "You're connected, sir." Dongsu leaned toward the microphone. "This is Foreman Dongsu of Kepler Mining Station. You really shouldn't have come here." There was a pause. Then the alien voice returned, sounding confused. "Did you not understand our message, primitive? We are claiming your territory." "I understood perfectly," Dongsu replied. "I'm just wondering why you thought this was a good idea." Taeho was already moving to his security station. He began activating systems that most people would assume were for mining operations. But Dongsu knew better. Every mining station in human space was built with one simple rule. If something threatened human lives, the equipment could be turned into weapons very quickly. The alien voice came back, now angry. "You dare to mock the hegemony? We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "That's nice," Dongsu said. "Taeho, what do our sensors show?" Taeho looked at his screens. 12 ships, sir, big ones. They're about 2 million kilometers out and moving closer. Size comparison to our station? Each of their ships is maybe 1/10 our size." Dongsu almost smiled. These aliens had no idea what they were dealing with. Kepler Station wasn't just a mining facility. It was one of the largest human structures in space. The mining equipment alone could move asteroids that weighed millions of tons. "War Commander," Dongsu said into the microphone, "I'm going to give you one chance to leave peacefully." The response was immediate and loud. "Impossible. The hegemony does not retreat from primitive mammals." "Mammals?" Dongsu looked at Taeho. "They've been watching us." "That's creepy, sir." Heejin, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have visitors and they might want to prepare for more." "Already done, sir. They're asking for a full report." "Tell them the report will have to wait. We're about to be busy." The alien ships were now visible on the main screen. They looked sleek and advanced with energy weapons that glowed blue along their hulls. To most people, they would look terrifying. To Dongsu, they looked fragile. "War Commander, this is your final warning," he said. "Primitive fools. Attack formation. Show them the power of the hegemony." 3 of the alien ships moved forward, their weapons charging with bright blue light. Taeho's fingers moved across his control panel like a pianist playing a familiar song. "Asteroid mover number 7 is ready." "Sir," he reported. "Fire." What happened next would have looked impossible to anyone not familiar with human mining technology. The asteroid mover, designed to push rocks weighing millions of tons, fired a focused gravitational beam at the leading alien ship. The ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was scattered atoms floating in space. The other two alien ships stopped moving. Their weapons powered down. What weapon was that? The alien commander's voice was different now. Smaller, afraid. That wasn't a weapon, Dongsu replied. That was mining equipment. Taeho, show them what our actual weapons look like. Yes, sir. The mining station's defensive systems activated. These were weapons. Real ones. Designed by humans who understood that space was dangerous and that anyone working in the void needed protection. Laser batteries emerged from hidden panels. Missile tubes opened like blooming flowers. Railguns that could punch through asteroid armor pointed at the alien fleet. Impossible, the alien commander whispered. War Commander, Dongsu said quietly. You made two mistakes. First, you assumed we were primitive. Second, you threatened human lives. We take that very personally. Two more alien ships exploded as Taeho's weapons found their targets. The remaining 9 ships began to retreat, moving away from the human system as fast as their engines could push them. This isn't over, the alien commander shouted as his ships fled. The hegemony will return with our full fleet. We'll be waiting, Dongsu replied. As the alien ships disappeared into the darkness of space, Hyejin turned to him. Sir, what do we do now? Dongsu looked at the empty space where the alien ships had been. Now we call home and tell them the neighbors aren't very friendly. He walked back to his office knowing that everything had just changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and unfortunately it looked like they were going to have to fight for their place in it. The emergency session of the Galactic Union Council had been called within hours of receiving the hegemony's battle report. Councillor Vrexte sat in his chair, his old bones aching as he listened to War Commander Thexval's angry words echo through the chamber. The humans destroyed 4 of our ships with primitive mining equipment. Thexval's voice carried across the vast meeting hall. This is impossible unless they were hiding their true capabilities. Vrexte closed his eyes. At over 400 years old, he was one of the few beings in the galaxy who remembered the old stories. The other counselors were too young to understand what they were dealing with. They saw the hegemony's report as evidence of human deception. Vrexte saw it as proof that the ancient warnings had been correct. Counselor Vrexte, the speaker addressed him. Your species has the longest historical records. What do you know of these humans? Vrexte stood slowly. His voice when he spoke carried the weight of centuries. I know we should run, all of us. As far and as fast as we can. The chamber filled with confused murmurs. The speaker looked puzzled. Counselor, surely you don't believe that a single mining station represents a serious threat to galactic civilization. That mining station, Vrexte said quietly, just proved that every nightmare our ancestors whispered about was true. After the session ended, Vrexte returned to his private archives. The younger counselors thought he was being dramatic, but they didn't understand. They had never read the sealed records from the Velkari War. Those documents were classified at the highest levels, available only to a few elder counselors, who were trusted to keep the galaxy's darkest secret. The Velkari Empire had ruled space for over 2,000 years when they first encountered humanity. They were advanced, powerful, and completely confident in their superiority. Their technology was centuries ahead of any other known species. Their military had never lost a battle. Vrexte accessed the restricted files and began to read again the reports that still gave him nightmares. The war had begun when the Velkari discovered Earth. Like the hegemony, they saw humans as primitive mammals who should be grateful to serve a superior species. The first Velkari fleet arrived at Earth expecting easy conquest. Ambassador Jin Wu had tried to negotiate. He was a human diplomat who spoke 17 alien languages and understood galactic law better than most aliens. He offered trade agreements, cultural exchange, and peaceful coexistence. The Velkari laughed at him. They demanded that humanity surrender their homeworld and accept slavery. When Jin Wu politely refused, they attacked. That was their first mistake. The Velkari had expected to face stone tools and wooden ships. Instead, they found a species that had already mastered nuclear weapons, space travel, and industrial warfare. The humans had been preparing for interstellar conflict before they even knew aliens existed. But technology wasn't what made humans dangerous. Every species in the galaxy had advanced weapons. What made humans different was how they thought about war. Most galactic species viewed conflict as a formal process. Battles were fought according to established rules. Surrender was accepted when enemies showed proper respect. Wars ended with negotiations and treaties. Humans viewed war as a problem to be solved. The Velkari sent their first battle fleet to Earth expecting a glorious victory. Admiral Kyung-ho's human fleet met them in space above the moon. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, every Velkari ship was either destroyed or captured. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what the humans did next. While the Velkari were still celebrating their inevitable victory on their homeworlds, human engineers were taking apart captured Velkari ships. Within 2 weeks, humans understood Velkari technology better than the Velkari did. Military strategist Suyon had studied the enemy's tactics, their ship designs, their communication patterns, and their strategic thinking. She identified 17 critical weaknesses in Velkari military doctrine. Then she wrote a plan to exploit every single one. The humans didn't just fight back, they innovated. They took Velkari weapons and made them better. They studied Velkari shields and built weapons specifically designed to pierce them. They intercepted Velkari communications and learned to predict their enemies' movements days in advance. The second battle took place near Proxima Centauri. The Velkari sent their most elite fleet, commanded by their greatest general. They were confident that experience would overcome human luck. The battle lasted 3 hours. No Velkari ship survived. By the third battle, the Velkari realized they were not facing a primitive species. They were facing something that war itself feared. Humans didn't just defeat their enemies, they studied them, adapted to them, and became better than them at their own game. Each battle taught humanity something new about galactic warfare. Each victory made them more dangerous. The war lasted 6 months. When it ended, the Velkari Empire, a civilization that had dominated space for millennia, no longer existed. Their worlds were empty, their fleets were scattered, and their people had fled to the edges of the galaxy. The humans hadn't committed genocide. They had simply made resistance impossible. Every Velkari weapon had been countered. Every Velkari strategy had been predicted. Every Velkari stronghold had been bypassed or neutralized. The surviving Velkari weren't killed, they were ignored. Their civilization had become irrelevant. The rest of the galaxy took notice. Emergency sessions were held. Treaties were signed. The human quarantine zone was established, and every species agreed to stay away from Earth's solar system. The motto became law. Let sleeping demons lie. Now, 3,000 years later, the hegemony had awakened those demons. Rextai finished reading the old reports and sat back in his chair. On Earth, he knew, a human woman named Mira was probably receiving the first galactic transmissions to reach that planet in 3 millennia. Earth's monitoring stations would be picking up the scattered communications from dozens of species, all talking about the same thing. Humanity was active again. The humans would be curious about what they had missed. They would want to know what had happened in the galaxy during their isolation. They would start asking questions, and once humans started asking questions, Rextai knew. They never stopped until they found answers. He activated his personal communication system and sent an encrypted message to his most trusted contacts in other governments. The message was simple. The humans are awake. Prepare your people. Then he sat back to wait for the galaxy to remember why their ancestors had been so afraid. War Commander Thexavel stood before the Supreme Council of the Hegemony, his hands clenched behind his back. The massive chamber was filled with the Empire's most powerful leaders, their eyes fixed on him with a mixture of anger and disbelief. You lost 4 ships to a mining station? Supreme Leader Kekstar's voice echoed through the hall. How is this possible? The humans were more prepared than we expected, Thexval replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Their equipment was more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Advanced enough to destroy ships that have conquered 100 worlds? Thexval remembered the moment when the human mining beam had simply erased one of his cruisers from existence. He had never seen anything like it. The weapon had been silent, invisible, and absolutely devastating. Supreme Leader, I believe the humans have been hiding their true capabilities. We should consider a diplomatic approach. No! Kekstar's voice boomed through the chamber. The hegemony does not negotiate with inferior species. These humans have embarrassed us in front of the entire galaxy. They must be crushed completely. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Young-Sik sat in his office deep inside Earth's military command center. The reports from Kepler Station lay spread across his desk, along with intelligence gathered from dozens of hidden monitoring posts throughout human space. So they call themselves the hegemony, he said to his staff, and they think we're primitive. Captain Yoon-jung, the fleet's chief science officer, looked up from her analysis of the alien ship fragments. Their technology is impressive but predictable. Standard plasma weapons, gravity-based shields, and fusion drives. Nothing we haven't seen in our theoretical models. How long would it take us to build countermeasures? For their current technology, maybe 2 weeks. But sir, I think we should assume they'll bring better weapons next time. Young-Sik nodded. He had been preparing for this moment his entire career. Every human military officer studied the Valkyrie War in detail. They knew that first contact with hostile aliens was not a matter of if, but when. Boram, he turned to his chief engineer. How quickly can we retrofit our deep space monitoring stations? Commander Boram consulted her tablet. The automated systems can begin modifications immediately. We've had the plans ready for 15 years. Give me 48 hours and every listening post from here to Proxima Centauri will be a weapons platform. Young-Sik smiled. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had stumbled onto advanced technology. They didn't understand that humans had been planning for interstellar war for centuries. What about ground forces? He asked. Colonel Gite, the Marine commander, leaned forward. Sir, if these aliens are planning a full invasion, they'll need to land troops somewhere. My people are ready. We've been training for alien combat scenarios since the Academy was founded. Good. Now, what do we know about their empire? Yoon-jung activated a holographic display that showed the local region of the galaxy. Red dots marked known hegemony territories. Based on their transmissions, they control roughly 200 star systems. Population estimates suggest maybe 50 billion individuals across dozens of species. All under the control of one dominant race? That appears to be correct, sir. Classic imperial structure. One species rules, everyone else serves. Young-Sik studied the map. The hegemony was massive compared to humanity's single star system. But he remembered something from his military history classes. Size wasn't everything in warfare. Do we have any intelligence on their military doctrine? Some, Yoon-jung replied. Their attack on Kepler Station followed standard imperial tactics. Overwhelming force, demands for surrender, demonstration of superior firepower. Very predictable, which means they probably haven't fought anyone who could fight back effectively in a long time. Exactly, sir. Meanwhile, on a research station orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Mira was listening to intercepted alien communications with growing fascination. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had always wondered what alien civilizations might be like. Now she was getting her answer, and it wasn't pleasant. They're talking about us like we're animals, she told her research team. Listen to this transmission. She played a recorded message from a hegemony commander. The human mammals show surprising cunning, but they are still just primitives with stolen technology. Once we deploy our full fleet, they will fall like all the others. Stolen technology. Dr. Imai. Ji-yeon, her assistant, looked confused. What are they talking about? I think they can't believe that we developed advanced weapons on our own, Mira replied. They assume we must have taken them from someone else. That's actually quite insulting. Mira nodded. It also tells us something important about how they think. They believe in a hierarchy of species, with themselves at the top. The idea that we might be their equals is literally unthinkable to them. Back on the hegemony home world, Supreme Leader Kextar was addressing his Grand Assembly. The massive hall was filled with representatives from all the conquered species under hegemony rule. Most were there by choice. It was easier to serve the Empire than to resist it. The humans have shown disrespect to our authority, Kextar announced. This cannot be allowed to stand. We will mobilize the Grand Armada, 10,000 ships carrying the combined might of our empire. These mammals will learn their place in the galactic order. In the audience, Ambassador Felnock of the Zenthari people felt a chill of fear. His species remembered the old stories about humans, passed down in whispers from their ancestors. Most people thought they were myths, but Felnock's grandfather had lived through the HFY War. After the assembly, Felnock sent an encrypted message to his home world. The hegemony is going to attack the humans. Begin evacuation of all border systems immediately. Admiral Youngsik received intelligence about the hegemony's mobilization within hours. Human monitoring stations throughout their territory were reporting massive fleet movements. 10,000 ships, Captain Yoon Jung reported. It's the largest military force assembled in recorded galactic history. Are you worried? Youngsik asked. Yoon Jung smiled. Sir, I've been studying their ship designs. They're impressive, but they're also standardized. Same weapons, same shields, same tactics. Once we figure out how to defeat one, we can defeat all of them. And how long will that take? Based on the data from Kepler Station? Maybe an hour. Youngsik turned to look at the tactical display showing human space. Earth sat at the center, surrounded by mining stations, research outposts, and defense platforms. To the aliens, it probably looked like a small, poorly defended system. They had no idea that every human structure in space had been built with warfare in mind. Every mining station could become a fortress. Every research outpost could become a weapons platform. Every transport ship could become a missile. Colonel Gite, Youngsik said, prepare your Marines for extended operations. I don't think this war will end when we destroy their fleet. Sir, these aliens have been conquering other species for who knows how long. When we're done with them, someone will need to liberate all those conquered worlds. That's a very large operation, sir. Youngsik nodded. Yes, it is. Boram, how quickly can we start converting civilian infrastructure to military production? The automated factories can be reprogrammed within days, sir. What do you need? Everything. Ships, weapons, supplies, and enough equipment to fight a war across 200 star systems. As the hegemony's Grand Armada began its journey toward human space, neither side fully understood what they were about to begin. The aliens thought they were launching a simple conquest. The humans knew they were about to fight for their survival. But somewhere in the space between those fleets, something else was awakening. Other species were watching. Other governments were making quiet preparations. The galaxy was about to remember what happened when you threatened humanity. And this time, the humans weren't alone in a single star system. This time, they had 3,000 years of advanced technology and strategic planning. The hegemony had broken the oldest rule in the galaxy. Now they would learn why that rule existed. The Battle of Rigel began at exactly 1430 Galactic Standard Time. War Commander Thexval led his Grand Armada of 10,000 ships in a formation that had crushed 100 worlds. Plasma cannons charged with deadly energy. Shield generators hummed with power. The largest military force in galactic history moved forward to crush a single human outpost. Admiral Youngsik watched from the bridge of his flagship as the alien fleet approached. His force looked tiny by comparison, only 50 ships defending the Rigel mining colony. But appearances could be deceiving. Doyon, what's our intelligence status? He asked his intelligence officer. Commander Doyon smiled as she read from her displays. Sir, we know everything. Ship types, weapon capabilities, shield frequencies, command structure, and tactical doctrine. Our monitoring stations have been watching them for weeks. And they know nothing about us? They still think we're using stolen technology, sir. Their communications suggest they expect us to break and run when they demonstrate their superior numbers. Youngsik nodded. The humans had spent 3,000 years studying alien technology and warfare. Every theoretical model, every simulation, every strategic analysis had prepared them for this moment. Chan Wu, status of our special projects? Captain Chan Wu, the fleet's youngest ship commander, grinned. The captured hegemony ships are ready, sir. My teams have completely rebuilt their systems. They're now more dangerous than when the hegemony owned them. During the weeks since the first battle, human engineering teams had captured several damaged hegemony vessels. But instead of simply studying them, Commander Boram's people had done something that the aliens would never have expected. They had improved them. Human technology was integrated with alien designs. Human weapons were installed on alien hulls. Human tactical computers were connected to alien sensor systems. The result was ships that looked like hegemony vessels but fought like human warships. "Gite, are your people ready?" Young Sik asked. Colonel Gite's voice came through the communication system from his marine assault ship. "Sir, my teams are standing by. Once we start capturing their ships, we'll have them operational under human control within hours." The alien fleet stopped just outside weapons range. Thexavel's voice echoed across space on all frequencies. "Humans, you are surrounded and outnumbered 200 to 1. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Young Sik activated his own communication system. "War Commander, this is Admiral Young Sik. You've made a mistake." "What mistake could primitives like you possibly understand? You assumed that numbers matter more than knowledge." The human fleet opened fire. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. The human ships didn't attack in formation, they attacked in chaos. Ships scattered in seemingly random directions, firing at targets that made no tactical sense, using weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate hegemony shields. Except the chaos was carefully planned, and the weapons had been specifically designed for this battle. Duyan had analyzed every aspect of hegemony military doctrine during the weeks of preparation. She discovered that alien commanders expected enemies to follow predictable patterns. They trained to fight opponents who used standard tactics and conventional strategies. But humans had never been conventional. The first wave of human ships struck targets throughout the alien formation. Instead of attacking the strongest ships, they hit communication vessels. Instead of targeting weapons, they destroyed sensor arrays. Instead of trying to break through the alien line, they turned the battle into a swirling melee where numbers didn't matter. "Impossible!" Thexval's voice crackled with static as his communication systems failed. "How are they penetrating our shields?" Boram's voice answered from her engineering ship. "We've been listening to your communications for weeks. We know the exact frequency of your shield generators. Our weapons are specifically tuned to pass right through them." While the main battle raged, Chanwu led his squadron of converted hegemony ships in a flanking attack. The alien commanders couldn't understand what they were seeing. Their own ships were fighting against them with impossible effectiveness. "Those are our vessels," an alien captain screamed over the radio. "How are the humans controlling our ships?" "We're not controlling them," Chanwu replied calmly. "We own them, and we've made them better than you ever could." The psychological impact was devastating. Hegemony crews watched their most advanced ships being outfought by improved versions of themselves. Morale collapsed as quickly as their battle formations. Meanwhile, Colonel Gite's Marines were boarding disabled alien vessels. But they weren't there to destroy them. They were there to capture them intact. Human boarding teams moved through alien ships with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment using detailed intelligence about hegemony ship designs. Every corridor, every control room, every weapon system was already familiar to them. "Bridge secured," Gite reported from a captured alien cruiser. "Engineering teams are installing human control systems now. We'll have this ship operational under human command within 2 hours." Across the battlefield, the same scene was repeating. Aliens who had expected easy victory found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Sun He, the human diplomatic liaison, began broadcasting on open channels to the alien crews. "Attention hegemony personnel. Your commanders lied to you. We are not primitives. We are not using stolen technology. We are humans, and we have been preparing for this war for 3,000 years. Surrender now and you will be treated with respect. Continue fighting and you will be defeated anyway, but with unnecessary casualties." The response surprised everyone. Alien crews began surrendering, not just to avoid death, but because they realized their commanders had sent them to fight an enemy they couldn't possibly defeat. Dr. Hyunwoo, monitoring the battle from a research vessel, observed something fascinating. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive stress patterns in the alien command frequencies. They're not just losing, they're panicking. Their entire strategic framework is collapsing." Young Sik understood. The hegemony had built their empire on the assumption that superior technology and overwhelming numbers would always triumph. They had never faced an enemy that could adapt faster than they could react. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 8,000 hegemony ships had been either destroyed or captured. The remaining 2,000 were fleeing in disorder, their crews broadcasting desperate messages about impossible human capabilities and demonic warfare tactics. Thexval's flagship was among the captured vessels. The war commander himself sat in human custody, staring at Admiral Youngsik with a mixture of fear and confusion. "How?" he asked. "We studied your species. You should have been helpless against our technology." Youngsik sat across from the alien commander. "You studied our equipment. You never studied us. You assumed we were like every other species you've conquered. Afraid, disorganized, and willing to accept defeat when faced with superior numbers. But you're just mammals, primitive creatures from a single world. We're humans," Youngsik corrected. "And we don't lose wars. We solve them." While the Admiral spoke with his prisoner, reports were coming in from across human space. The victory at Rigel had been observed by monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Other species were sending careful diplomatic messages to Earth, requesting information about human intentions. Duyan brought the intelligence summary to Youngsik. "Sir, we're receiving communications from 17 different governments. They all want to know if we plan to replace the hegemony as the dominant power in this region of space." "What did you tell them?" "Nothing yet, sir. I thought you should decide our response." Youngsik looked at the tactical displays showing the captured hegemony fleet. Human engineering teams were already at work, studying alien technology and integrating it with human systems. Within days, they would have a fleet capable of projecting power across hundreds of star systems. "Send a message to all the governments that have contacted us," he said. "Tell them that humanity has no interest in conquest or domination. But we will not allow any species to threaten human lives or human territory." "And the hegemony territories, sir? Their empire is collapsing. Dozens of conquered species are declaring independence." Youngsik considered this. The hegemony had ruled through fear and military superiority. With their fleet destroyed, their subject species were breaking free, but without protection they would be vulnerable to other threats. "Send another message," he decided. "Any species seeking protection from aggression may request human assistance. We will help them defend themselves, but we will not rule them." As news of the human victory spread across the galaxy, other powers began making their own calculations. Some saw opportunity in the hegemony's fall. Others saw a new threat rising from the small blue world called Earth. But in the human military command center, Admiral Youngsik was already planning for the next phase of the conflict. The hegemony's main fleet was destroyed, but their empire still existed. Millions of beings were still suffering under alien occupation. The war was far from over. In fact, Youngsik realized it was just beginning. Supreme Leader Kextar stood in his command center, watching reports flow in from across the crumbling hegemony. Rebellion was spreading like wildfire through his empire. Species that had served the hegemony for centuries were declaring independence. Worlds that had never shown defiance were driving out his governors. "How many systems have we lost?" he asked his trembling aide. 73, Supreme Leader, and more are joining the rebellion every hour." Kextar's hands shook with rage. The humans had done more than defeat his fleet. They had destroyed the fear that held his empire together. For the first time in his life, he was desperate. "Send a message to all remaining loyal commanders," he ordered. "If the humans want to play the role of liberators, we will show them what liberation costs. Begin Operation Final Stand." His aide's face went pale. "Supreme Leader, that operation targets civilian populations." "Do it!" The order went out across hegemony space. If the empire was going to fall, it would take as many lives as possible with it. Military commanders were instructed to threaten genocide against any population that supported human intervention. Admiral Youngsik received the intelligence reports within hours. The hegemony's final strategy was to use innocent civilians as hostages, betting that human moral principles would prevent effective military action. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. "Nayon, I need evacuation plans for every threatened world," Youngsik told his tactical coordinator. "How quickly can we move civilian populations to safety?" Commander Nayon's fingers flew across her displays. "Sir, we're talking about potentially billions of beings across dozens of worlds. Using our current fleet, it would take months, and we don't have months. Boram, what's our production capacity?" Chief Engineer Boram looked up from her manufacturing reports. "Sir, every automated factory in human space is now producing either military equipment or civilian transport vessels. We're building ships faster than any civilization in recorded history." "How much faster?" We're launching a new vessel every 4 minutes, sir. By tomorrow, we'll have enough ships to begin large-scale evacuation operations. While the human fleet prepared for rescue operations, Colonel Gite was conducting a very different kind of mission. His Marines had been inserted onto 17 different worlds, not to fight hegemony forces, but to make contact with local resistance groups. On the world of Keth Prime, Gite met with resistance leader Velnon, a member of the Cathani species who had been fighting hegemony occupation for decades. "You humans truly intend to help us?" Velnon asked, studying the small human with curiosity. "Not to conquer us for yourselves?"
"We intend to help you free yourselves," Gite replied.
"My people can provide weapons, training, and tactical support. But this is your world. You should be the ones who decide how to govern it." Velnon was silent for a long moment. In all his years of resistance, no outside power had ever offered help without demanding control in return. "What do you need from us?" "Intelligence about hegemony military positions, civilian population centers, and any secret weapons they might be planning to use." "And in exchange?" Gite opened his equipment case, revealing weapons that were clearly of human design, but sized for alien hands. "Training, equipment, and air support when you need it." Similar conversations were happening on worlds across the former hegemony. Human special forces teams were making contact with resistance groups, escaped slaves, and oppressed populations who had never dreamed that freedom might be possible. Dr. Wu Jin, the human communications specialist, was coordinating a massive psychological warfare campaign. Every day, human broadcasts reached deeper into hegemony territory, carrying a simple message: liberation is coming. Prepare yourselves. But the most effective propaganda wasn't human words, it was human actions. When the hegemony threatened to destroy the civilian population of Nexar 7th, a human rescue fleet arrived within 18 hours. Transport ships landed under cover of military escorts, evacuating 3 million beings to safety, while human fighters held off hegemony attack squadrons. When hegemony commanders on Veltar announced they would execute hostages, human special forces infiltrated the prison camps and freed the captives before the threats could be carried out. When the hegemony navy tried to blockade the Zenthari home system, they discovered that their impenetrable formation had been infiltrated by human stealth ships that disabled their major vessels from within. Admiral Young-Sik commanded these operations from his flagship, but he was beginning to understand that this war was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. It wasn't just a conflict between two military powers. It was a revolution. "Sir," Commander Doyon reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 47 different hegemony commanders. They want to negotiate terms." "What kind of terms?" "Most of them are offering to release their prisoners and withdraw from occupied territories in exchange for safe passage to neutral space." Young-Sik considered this. Traditional military doctrine suggested accepting such surrenders to minimize casualties and speed up victory. But this wasn't a traditional war. Send a reply to all of them, he decided. "We'll accept their surrender on one condition. They must stand trial for war crimes committed against civilian populations. If they're found innocent, they'll be free to go. If they're found guilty, they'll serve appropriate sentences. Sir, some of them might choose to fight rather than face trial. Then they can fight and lose. But we won't let war criminals escape justice just because it's more convenient." The human approach to justice was as revolutionary as their approach to warfare. Instead of simply replacing one empire with another, they were establishing principles that applied to everyone, including themselves. Commander Si Jin's Marine forces were discovering the full extent of hegemony atrocities as they liberated world after world. Slave camps, execution centers, and experimental facilities where captured beings were used for medical testing. Each discovery made the human forces more determined to see justice done. But they also found something else: alien species with incredible potential that had been suppressed under hegemony rule. Scientists, engineers, artists, and philosophers who had been forced to serve the Empire's military goals were suddenly free to pursue their own interests. Dr. Nayon began coordinating with liberated alien researchers, sharing human scientific knowledge and learning about their discoveries. The exchange of ideas was producing innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. "Admiral," she reported during a staff meeting, "the Zenthari have developed energy storage techniques that are centuries ahead of our current technology." The Cathani have medical knowledge that could revolutionize human healthcare. And the Veltari have mathematical insights that could improve our computer systems dramatically. Are they willing to share this knowledge? Sir, they're eager to share. Most of these species have been isolated from each other for generations under hegemony rule. They're excited to be part of a galactic community again. As human forces advance deeper into former hegemony territory, they weren't just winning battles, they were building alliances. Each liberated world brought new knowledge, new perspectives, and new friends to the growing coalition. But Supreme Leader Kextar wasn't finished yet. In his final stronghold, he was preparing one last desperate gambit. If he couldn't rule the galaxy, he would try to destroy it. Deep in his fortress, hegemony scientists were working on a weapon that had been theoretical until now, a device that could destabilize stars and cause them to collapse into black holes. How many stars can we target? Kextar asked his chief scientist. With our current power reserves, perhaps 6 or 7, including the human home system. Kextar smiled coldly. Then we will take the humans with us when we fall. Prepare to target their sun. Let them try to rescue their precious Earth from a collapsing star. The message reached human intelligence within hours. Every species in the galaxy had spies, but humans had something better. They had friends. Liberated aliens were volunteering information about hegemony's secret projects, eager to prevent any return to the old regime. Admiral Young Sik read the report with growing concern. How long until their weapon is operational? Maybe 72 hours, sir, Do-Yeon replied. But we have a problem. Their fortress is heavily shielded and defended by automated systems. A direct assault would take weeks. Young Sik looked at the tactical displays showing Kextar's stronghold. It was built into an asteroid field, surrounded by mines and weapons platforms, and protected by shields that could deflect almost any attack. Almost any attack. Boram, he said quietly. Do we still have those experimental weapons you've been working on? Chief Engineer Boram smiled. The planet crackers? Yes, sir, but they've never been tested at full power. How sure are you that they'll work? 90%, sir, Young Sik nodded. Then it's time to end this war.